Hello, everybody. Agnieszka Ostrowska, Center for International Relations. Today, we are going to talk about fake news, deep fakes, and use of artificial intelligence in creating false information. We have here with us three academics from Faculty of Law at University St. Kliment Ohridski in Bitola, North Macedonia. We welcome Dr. Angelina Stanojoska, Dr. Blagoj Nenovski, and Dr. Ilijevski. It's really great to have you with us again, I will say, because we have met before during executing our project. We are partners in a project called Balkan Ambitions and Polish Inspirations, co-financed by Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And this is under this project that we are recording this webinar. Before we talk about our subject with our guests and partners, I would like us to watch a very short video. It is in Macedonian, but it is not the language that is important, but the vision. So watch carefully.
Терористичкиот напад во центарот на Виена само уште еднаш потврди дека тероризмот со верска идеолошка позадина представува сериозна глобална закана пред која што не се имуни ниту развиените европски држави.
I would like to ask you, I said, Blagoj, which one of you is really you talking in this video and which one is a fake you?
Hello, Agnieszka. Hello, everyone. First, I might say thank you for your invitation to be part of this webinar. And obviously, it should start with my colleague, Professor Ilijevski. At around 10 seconds, it continues to morph into my face. If you let me to say a couple of things about the creation process of the video, I must point out that it all started this year's conference that we are partners with you, with our Polish colleagues, where we wanted to focus on the disinformation. But we also noticed that there is a terminology called deepfakes that is really impactful and uses the most modern technology. If we want to address the motives, we wanted, additionally to the theoretical approach, to get a better understanding of how practically it is to create a deepfake video. And although there are a lot of websites and applications that are available both for Android and iOS systems, they mostly provide us with limited final results. They want to charge users in the form of credits and in the form of tokens. But to create more realistic and more believable results, one should have to use machine learning methods to create a deepfakes, and they're based on deep learning and also involve the training of generative neural networks. In order to create a believable and real result, one should use open source tools. By open source, I mean that anyone can view, can inspect, or also edit the code. And basically, they are free tools, and they can be created, this type of video can be created locally. Meaning if someone...
But Blagoj, you are an IT specialist. So for you, probably it was very easy to create a video like that. But with the plenty of possibilities of open source, AI generated possibilities, does that mean that any of us can do something like that you did ourselves? And how likely are we to live in a world that will be full of faked videos that we will not be able to distinguish from the real ones?
Well, basically, there is not a simple answer, so I can just say both yes and both no. It all really depends to the level of realism that we are prepared to go through by using all of our computational resources, the time that we have, as well as the other resources such as the target and the source of the video. In our case, we took down a video from Professor Ilijevski, which he gave an interview to the Voice of America. And we cut down a portion of 33 seconds. Instead of creating it locally, we created it on the cloud. And all it took us was something less than 14 minutes. What is really scary is that this was our first and only attempt at creating a deepfake video between me and my colleague.
And would you say, Blagoj, if you saw a video of yourself done by yourself, but if you didn't know that you did it, would you think that it is really you? I mean, would you be fooled?
In this case, there are a lot of giveaways, especially if we look at the mouth movement. But there are a lot of techniques that powerful disinformation centers can use in order to reduce the quality and even go to the metric that has been a lot of resharing of the video. And we know that people want to share content without even opening the video. If it has a bombastic title, it can probably share it if someone wants to push someone's agenda.
So what was actually your motivation hidden behind making this video? What did you want to prove? What did you want to demonstrate?
It all started with, as I said, with this year's conference, where we wanted to have enough of a provocative title. But regarding the nature of both me and my colleagues, we didn't want to keep to the theoretical level, but we also wanted to get a better understanding by practically creating a video.
Talking about practice, with all this easiness to reach all these both open source and I don't know website and algorithms that make us able to create fake and deepfake news and videos, how can you estimate the scale of the deepfake's existence in our information space? I don't know whether you can tell about Europe or I don't know, worldwide.
That is a really great question. We can focus on the number of available videos online, but we must also focus on how often can one or someone encounter deepfakes. And basically, it all depends on the individual's internet usage. So with websites, we have a directional connection between both the visitor and the website. And here, of course, we have to suppose that the content on that website is chronologically sorted. But also there are Google and other search engines, where there is a page ranking system which determines what order the results would give up with the keywords that are entered. We also have news aggregators where we address to have a news digestion. Concretely, in North Macedonia, we have time.mk, which is the most popular news aggregator. And despite the neutral version, they also have a pro-government and against government version to select it. But if we try to look where do we encounter this type of content, it is usually shared on social media, such as Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, etc. And here we have a lot of attributes that contribute to the content that is being displayed. We have the demographic attributes of the user, then we have the list of his friends, the contents that they are sharing, we have the content from other pages, and even the time that a user is spending by looking at one content. So there are a lot of factors that can determine the content that is being presented to the end user. If we want to look at the sheer number of deepfake videos, one estimation is saying that only in 2023 we will have over 500,000 of deepfake videos and voice available online.
Would you say that this is a lot or not? And also, I want to ask you a question because I'm not sure whether we have defined exactly what a deepfake is and if it can only have bad connotations, because we can imagine that deepfakes also serve for satire. They serve also sometimes for, I don't know, film industry or marketing industry. So do we associate deepfake only with something negative?
Absolutely. Let me first address the number, whether it is a high or a low number. I can only say that it is much higher number compared especially to previous years. And the trajectory can only go up. There is no way of going down. When we focus the definition, if we try to look at scientific papers and journals to get a strict definition of what a deepfake actually is. And what we found out is that it is loosely defined. There is also research on holistic multidisciplinary definitions, a comprehensive overview of deepfakes, and even a paper that focuses on the need for a more concrete definition. But if we just go on Google and try to search for a definition of deepfake, one of the results is by the Merriam-Webster dictionary. And here it says that it's an image or a recording that has been convincingly altered and manipulated to misrepresent someone as doing or saying something that was not actually done or said. So just by looking at the definition, we can see the negative context. But the technology that is being used to create the deepfakes also has positive use cases. They can start, as you said, with the humorous intents, with satire. Maybe some friends can change their faces. They can try to put themselves as movie stars, etc. But if you want to look at more serious usage, they can be used in the news anchoring process. They can be used in movie production to reduce the number of retakes. They can age or usually de-age the authors. Also in the gaming industry, they can be coupled with text-to-speech technologies. In marketing, they can reduce the number of expenses. There are lots of use cases in education. And I must point out one of the greatest examples of a positive usage of the deepfake technology, and that is in a pretty easy to pronounce campaign called Malaria Must Die. This campaign featured famous footballer David Beckham, where in a short video of less than 1 minute, he spoke 9 different languages with the sole purpose to reach a much wider audience.
I understand that he agreed to that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's a very beautiful example of how the deepfake can be used. And I wanted to address your suggestion, your observation that deepfake is loosely defined. And I would like that there is no like a real definition of what it is. And I would like to ask maybe your colleagues, should we define it more?
The European Union has taken a proactive approach to deepfake regulation, calling for increased research into deepfake detection and prevention, as well as regulation that would require clear labeling of artificial generated content. The most important regulation in this area would be the newly proposed Artificial Intelligence Act. Through it, the European Union hopes to harmonize the rules and obligations, steering the development, market placement, and use of artificial intelligence systems amongst member states.
Do you mean the act that was actually accepted like a week ago?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so this is something brand new. After 3 days, I don't know, nearly 20-something hours, a lot of hours of negotiations, this act was finally agreed upon.
Yes, but the purpose of Artificial Intelligence Act will not bar the use of deepfakes outright, but attempts to regulate them through transparency obligation placed on the creators, who will be obligated to disclose that the content has been artificial generated or manipulated. Another relevant legal framework is the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, because the creation of a deepfake typically involves the use of personal data, given that content is frequently created using an individual personal data, including their image and voice, and the content creator would be subject to GDPR obligation. But in each member state, there exists at least one autonomous supervisory authority tasked with ensuring and enforcing compliance with the established rules and regulations.
The most
in
challenging
Macedonia,
obstacle,
North Macedonia, what is this organization and how
Yes.
smoothly does that work?
yes, it's the same. We have GDPR because
Awesome.
the North Macedonia does not have specific regulation addressing deep fakes explicitly, but as a candidate country for EU accession, North Macedonia should align its legal framework with European standards and regulations. And here, international cooperation and alignment with regional initiatives to combat disinformation also play a role in addressing deepfake. But the most challenging obstacle remains enforceability. As in most cases, it's very difficult to identify and hold accountable malicious deepfake creators. Here is the Digital Service Act, is another important legal framework allowing individual to notify an online platform of any content which they deem to be illegal. Online platforms are not legally obliged to monitor, detect, and remove malicious deepfakes. It's ultimately in their interest to proactively adopt policies to implement such tools and prioritize users' protection. And innovative users' protection measures may soon be a key factor determining a platform's success in terms of users' engagement.
Yeah, but this is a very important point that you are making, because while websites can take down deepfakes as soon they realize these are deepfakes, how can we prosecute those who create them? And do we have any legal instruments to pursue them?
Yes, it's very interesting because in that, while on paper it seems that individuals have ample legal safeguards against malicious deepfakes, but in practice may not be easily enforceable. Frequently identifying the perpetrator is a serious challenge, as they often operate under the veil of anonymity. And additionally, victims may find themselves without the necessary resources to initiate legal proceedings, rendering them susceptible and exposed. But the regulation of deepfake technology is essential. Some countries like China have introduced laws to mandate individuals and organizations to disclose the use of deepfake technology in videos and other media. Overall, artificial intelligence risk management is crucial to mitigate the potential risk of this technology.
I can see that actually when I ask the question in which context we can perceive deepfakes, I can see it is more about threats than possibilities. So can we try to name the main threats resulting from the existence of this AI-generated technology that helps us to build worlds that do not exist?
I should address that question. As a foundation to the answer of that question, I must go a couple of steps back and point out that with the starting video that we witnessed at the beginning of this webinar, we only used a single image, a single photo of my face. But powerful disinformation centers are usually using a lot of video as an input for both the target as well as the source. If we want to go into different categories, the first and the most obvious one also always is disinformation. So regarding the Ukrainian and the Russian, let's say, conflict, just 2 weeks after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we had the video of President Zelensky calling for the Ukrainian troops to surrender to the Russian forces. And it is not that only President Zelensky had been a victim of this type of video. We also have President Putin, where in one of the cases, he was calling for donations to the Ukrainian government. And in another one, he was even calling for civil mobilization. So the first and the most obvious one is disinformation. Then we have the defamation of a person's identity. It can be used for identity theft. There is even a research that I came by, which practically showed how a deepfake version of someone's face can be used to bypass the biometric security of a smartphone. It can be used in various scams. We can have celebrities or popular person that would promote some products or services. So let's say we can have Elon Musk to promote some cryptocurrency that he actually is not promoting. It is able to change also the political discourse. And sadly, I will pronounce again, sadly, at this moment, most of the deepfake videos are used for non-consensual pornography.
Yeah, so I would like to address Angelina, because women are usually victims of the deep fakes. And I remember from the publication that you produced for our common project that it is actually 98%, if I'm not mistaken, of deep fakes that are against women's reputation and also showing them being engaged in some sexual activities. Can you tell us, can you maybe tell us to what extent this technology and deepfake is used in criminal activities, and also to what extent it is used against women?
Thank you very much for the invitation to be part of the webinar, and also thank you for the question. Actually, if we start talking about gender and about women's experience in cyberspace, there are many threats in cyberspace, especially for women and for LGBTQ people, and that is why we cannot talk only about cybersecurity connected to on the national level, but also on the individual level. Thinking like this, actually, we need to address that in the digital world. There are also gender differences, and there are also different threats and experiences from different kinds of victimization, threats, and harm. And deepfake, actually, non-consensual pornography is one of the forms of gender-based violence in cyberspace. What is what is violence against women and girls in cyberspace, or now use the natural term of gender-based violence in cyberspace? When it is happening in cyberspace, actually, it goes hand in hand with the traditional form of gender-based violence, and it has the same mechanism of patriarchy that is happening also in the offline forms. It is like it's mirroring the norms, the gender and social inequalities and disbalances between genders. So let's say, beside non-consensual pornography, one study in the UK from 2019 has shown that 54% of women have been victims of cyber stalking that has actually started offline and then continued online in the digital space. Also, 46 of women in one survey of Amnesty International also said that have been victims of online harassment, of acts that were sexist. So showing actually that the cyberspace is not that secure that we actually thought. Although that we are saying that the online forms of gender-based violence follow or precede the ones that are happening offline, or we call them traditional forms, the consequences are equally important and harmful as the one that are happening in the offline world. So their position in the criminal process is known as a continuum of violence. saying that the violent acts that are taking place through technology are an integral part of the same violence that women and girls experience in the physical world for reasons that are related to gender. So what actually happened since the development of technology? The feminist informed, especially scholars and society, were examining the gendered nature of technology. So they were very optimistic, saying like, great, now we have a totally new world that we're going to start to build from the beginning, and saying that imagine that we're going to have a world without gender. But then they actually realized that the technology is gendered and that people in technology are mostly men. Also popular cultural images are associated with hegemonic masculinity, and that actually knowledge and practice in tech areas are gendered. So technologies have become one alternate area where traditional hierarchical gender relations are replicated.
I wanted to ask you, so do you think that we as an international community and also country by country, are we ready to tackle this kind of illegal and malicious activities and give like proper answers how to deal with that?
Well, the first step in Europe started with the Istanbul Convention. It is a very important international document of the Council of Europe that has addressed the many forms of, especially offline gender-based violence, but also countries that have ratified the convention have the obligation to incriminate different types of crimes that are connected to gender-based violence, but also incriminate not only the offline forms, but also the online forms. So the countries that have signed and ratified the convention have started that process. Let's say North Macedonia has finally did it in 2023, although we have ratified it 5 years ago. And this is the first step in tackling these kind of activities in the digital world. But I think that still countries have a lot of to do. It's not only law in the picture. We need to tackle the phenomenon of victim blaming, because that is one of the main reasons why victims do not actually go to authorities and report what is happening to them. It is not that they don't understand what is happening. Like in many surveys regarding online forms of gender-based violence, victims have known what's happening, but living in societies where victims are found to be the guilty ones for what have happened, they just made the decision to try and solve the problem on their own. So that is something that also countries need to do for them to tackle these kind of activities. And of course, we will need a lot of work and cooperation from platforms, because in most cases it happens on social media platforms or other kind of platforms, and if there is no cooperation with platforms, it's impossible to find the perpetrators or the one that have actually uploaded, let's say, a video or an image with intimate content.
Do you think that we are just about to live in a world then we will not be really able to distinguish what is fake and what is real? And how far are we from this moment? Thinking about deep fakes and new technologies, AI-generated technologies.
I don't think that maybe will be the case, but I think that if countries are prepared in tackling the usage of AI in different areas of life, or maybe legally put a framework of how can we use it, where can we use it, of course, because technology can be used for good. We can use it to make our lives better, but with everything that we have actually invented, we always use it for bad things also. So I don't think that that should be the case if we put a legal framework of how it can be used and in which way and where it can be used. So if we do that, then I think that we will not have that many problems, because we're always going to have people that are not going to obey the law and work in that framework.
So to what extent, and maybe this is a question to your colleagues, to what extent do you think that we can use AI technology to counter AI disinformation threat? Are we able to think about algorithms or, I don't know, programs that will detect malicious deepfakes, that will counter them, that will show them, and that maybe they will help to combat this streak?
Okay, maybe later we can also talk about some of the hints and the tips on how to recognize a
Sure, of
deepfake
course.
video. But at this moment, I would like to share the 4 pillars that I personally believe that are really important if we want to counter this type of disinformation threats. And those are the public awareness, the recognition tools, what companies are doing, as well as legal frameworks. Let me start with the legal frameworks. To have a better legal framework, we must have a better execution. And here I must emphasize the importance that a coordinated international response can do. So usually videos are shared mainly on 2 platforms. The first one is YouTube, and the second one is TikTok. Both of them, starting from September and November respectively, have created AI labeling mechanisms. In the case of YouTube, they will start to put an AI label, firstly in the description, but if someone at that company considers a certain video to be sensitive enough, they will put an AI label in the video itself. But better legal frameworks can also press social media and video platforms to implement artificial intelligence detection tools. Once these companies have created this type of tools, it is really easy for them, and then they can have the best vertical integration with their services.
Do we already have them?
Absolutely. We do have them, but we also need to look at the results. So in order to have their power, we have to be put in the shoes of the victim's perspective. And we have to look at the medium that this type of content is usually shared on. And most of the time, this content is shared on social media networks. So first thing that we can do is look at the profile or the page that has shared the malicious video. And if this profile and page is a long-term account, the first thing that we can do is send a cease and desist to the creator. But if it is a new profile, we can directly address the social media platforms and also report a certain type of content. This can be for false information, for violence, hate speech, it can be harassment, and it can be nudity, among others. And if we have a bigger number, a larger number of people that are that are reporting this type of content, that would directly implicit on how the company will address that issue.
From your knowledge, are people really involved, and do people react?
I can speak in my name, and I usually report fake news and fake content. I cannot speak about the others, but that is why we should have more webinars, more conferences, more media literacy, etc., where we can educate the regular person on the option that they have to report this type of content.
I interrupted you while you were talking about the pillars, so if you could please continue about the other ones.
Well, the first one, as I said, is the option to report a certain content. But if we want to get to the root of the creation of a deepfake, we must have both a combination of legal, law enforcement, we must have cyber security, as well as digital forensic professionals. So we can see that both of social media, and the same goes for forums also, we have a technique called IP tracing. By IP tracing, we can look at the account and get the certain IP address that was used to share the video. Internet service providers, or ISPs, are usually storing a database of the IP addresses that they are allocating to their users. And also social media platforms have this type of data. So if there is a malicious account and it was used to log in combination with the personal profiles of the criminals, they can be easily detected. Sadly, there are also VPNs, or virtual private networks, or the criminals can hide themselves behind a proxy. But if the platform has yet to address this issue, we can also look at other profiles and how they're engaging with that type of content. We can look at the first likes of the post. We can see who is the one who is commenting on that post, who is the one who is sharing that post at the very beginning.
To what extent do you think it is artificial intelligence generated?
Can you please clarify the question?
To what extent do you think that what is being placed, the hate speech and all this malicious disinformation, is actually artificial intelligence generated and not spread by like people?
This is a really good question, and I asked this as a question, something really close to this, when we visited Poland a few days ago. And it all started with the question, what is a photo? So we have a certain paradox where Google is both the creator of YouTube as a platform, and I just spoke about how they will start to label AI content, but also they are the creator of the Pixel phone. As Apple has the iPhone, Google has their Pixel phone. And they're really the pioneer of using artificial intelligence. Just to give you a simple example, we can have a selfie with multiple people where in each of the scenarios, one of the people will be smiling. And the phone is intelligent enough to combine all those pictures and only put the faces in each of the instances where each one of us was smiling. So if they start labeling AI content, what is a photo and how can we distinguish whether it is the real thing or it is a combination of whether AI or AI manipulated content?
That reminds me about the quotation from Barack Obama, who said, "This is a dangerous time." This is a quote now. "Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet." And you know very well that this quotation, yes, that's really very valid for today, very relevant, but all the more that the statement is taken from a fake video, which was forged, but for the good, for pro publico bono, as a part of social campaign. So this is nice that we can show the possibilities of putting words into somebody's mouth in a good cause, but unfortunately, from what we've been talking here, it's not always the case. So would you like to make a comment on that?
Absolutely, because regarding the 4 pillars that I spoke about, we cannot just expect to be included in creating the company policies. We might be able to reach, but we are not sure that the governments will create legal frameworks based on our opinions. But what we as academics can do is to force for more media literacy and better educations. And also if there are some fact-checking initiatives where we can also support them.
So you wanted to talk about these hints, how we distinguish, how we actually realize that something is deep fake. Could you dwell a little bit more about that?
And this is one area that I cannot just be short. So just as an introduction, I can say that both Professor Stanojoska as well as Professor Ilijevski, to get a better understanding of what end results, what the final results of deepfake videos can look like, we watched more than hundreds of deepfake videos. And it all comes down, if we have to submit in one single sentence, is to follow your intuition. Sometimes the regular viewer cannot explain what is wrong with the video, but although there is not an explanation, intuition can sometimes point to a deepfake video. But if we want to be specific and we want to get technical, we can first look at the source of the lightning. And the source of the lightning can put the shadows on the face, on the background, and usually the neck area. So low-end softwares are usually lacking the shadows, but state-of-the-art softwares are pronouncing really convincing results. Then we have some parts of our faces, such as our cheeks, that can turn out to be either blurred or pixelized. And this is not permanent, but this is only temporary in the video. Then we can look at the facial details and we can compare them to the background, not in these cases where we have artificial backgrounds in this Zoom meeting, but in a deepfake video, we can see even less details, or some softwares are even implementing a face enhancing mechanisms where we have more details in the face compared to the background. So in some cases, we even might have interviews. So in different consecutive scenes, we can compare the number of face details from the interviewer to the interviewee. We also have the eyes. Eyes, like they say, should never lie. There should be our most natural element. But AI-generated content can produce results that do not blink or that they have rapid eye blinking. And also we can look at the eye movement. They should be coordinated with the message that the speaker is trying to reach, with the head movement, as well as the body posture.
Do you think that all these images generated by artificial intelligence really do have all these faults? Because I have the feeling that they are becoming more and more advanced, more and more sophisticated, and that all these little hits that you are talking about right now, they are very easily to fraud and to create artificially as well.
You said there is a big difference when comparing images and videos. There is a website that says this person does not exist. And it is a really good website. It is not made with malicious intents. There are legitimate use cases where one would use a photo of someone that does not exist. One of the examples is to be used in a testimonials showcase before a website goes live. So when speaking about the eyes, we have the pupils that usually should have either a circular or an elliptical shape. But in an image, AI can get really creative with the shape of the pupils. And you see, this is really easy to spot with images, but not that easy with videos. There is really good research that we found out about, especially about the pupils. So they are much more convincing in an image form, but really hard to create convincing results in a video form at this moment.
It's very interesting. There are very practical hints that you are giving us, and I think each one of us should be aware of them and try to be very vigilant. And while looking at all these video, not only video, but also audio content, there were many cases when also the voice was approached, and when celebrities suddenly, it turned out that they would read Mein Kampf by Hitler, which happened to the star who played Hermione in Harry Potter, or some other, even Biden, from what I know, was his voice was forged while he was saying some sexist remarks. So I think, also have to realize that deep fakes, it is not only video, right? That it can be also audio, and that it can be also a photo, which is probably most easy to forge. So these are dangerous times we are living in. And because our conversation will have to soon end, I would like all of you to give us 3, I don't know, conclusions, maybe hints for the future, or recommendations, how we can live in times when we can not be sure, we can really rely on what we hear, we see, and we read.
Deepfake technology is a rapidly evolving field, making it challenging to accurately anticipate its future trajectory. Quick solutions are unavailable, and because of that, robust legal frameworks are imperative, outlining clear responsibilities and consequences for those who involved in the malicious creation or dissemination of deepfakes. Collaboration at the international and industry levels is essential, fostering information sharing, research, and development of innovative countermeasures, because continuously research and innovation along the user's empowerment through controls and transparency round out the multi-phased approach required to fortify society against the influence of deepfake.
I would say that the first step is to have more research and data about this problem and other forms that are connected to any kind of criminal activities in the cyberspace, because that's the first step in preventing and suppressing any kind of phenomenon. So to suppress it, we need to know more about it. I would also say a stronger legal framework and stronger collaboration between government institutions and community representatives from the internet, the websites, social media, and other service providers. I would say from my own perspective that it is not easy to live in a world where we get information from everywhere. That is a positive thing, but it is not easy to live in that kind of world. And I would say that we should always double check what we read or what we hear, and that is the only way to actually have the right information in the right time, because with so many portals that are still not, like North Macedonia has one of that problems with that many, let's say, internet portals that are not still in the legal framework. News need to be double checked. So that's one of the steps how we can protect ourselves from fake news.
I would continue from your part where you pointed that it is not always face swapping methods with deepfakes. And at this moment, the mouse movement is the greatest giveaway of a deepfake video. But if we want to get a specific terminology, it is called lip syncing, when we're using the face of the victim and we're only moving their mouth with things that they have never said. It is really important to point out that we have to go outside of this circle and emphasize that when we watched deepfake videos, we exclusively searched for that type of content and we were prepared to watch it. but the regular person will not have an access to the original video, and he will not get any type of information that it is an AI manipulated video. So we have to choose where we put our apples in which basket. As I said, we as academics should address this issue and work our way through better public awareness.
Thank you very much. And I hope that our audience who is watching us or who will be watching us will say and will be able to determine from our mouth movement that we are not deep fakes, that we are real people who are here consulting each other, discussing and trying to give you some hints how not to be fooled by deep fakes. And I think that this advice that you gave to follow your intuition is really very valuable, and also all the things that we know about countering disinformation, countering like fakes, which do not necessarily have to be deep fakes, which do not necessarily have to be AI generated, are still valid. We have to think critically, we have to compare sources, we have to rely on valuable sources, and we simply have to be vigilant to what is going on in the information space to be safe, because there are more and more dangers here. So I would like to thank you very much, and I'm really very happy that we could host this wonderful North Macedonian team in our webinar. And I would like to also invite you to see our other webinars that we produce in the framework of this project. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our speakers.